to Bloody Good Horror, covering the best and worst of the horror genre since Halloween 2007. Listener discretion is advised.
Hello everybody and welcome to another exciting episode of Bloody Good Horror. My name's Eric and I'll be your host for this evening where we will be reviewing Escape Room. It's like a room that you try to escape. Joining me tonight, first up, coming to us from Texas. That's where you are, Shelton? Texas?
That is where I am.
From
yes.
Sophisticated Cinema, please welcome one Mr. John Shelton.
Oh, hey guys, how's it going?
I'm pretty sure I just saw him drinking like whiskey out of a water glass, so tonight should probably be pretty interesting.
No, I'm drinking alcoholic kombucha, which is about as far away from
Nice.
whiskey as you can get.
Even better.
Oof. Blackberry mint.
Next up on the show, keeping it real in the South as well, from Hotlanta, Georgia, please welcome our very own Cece.
Hello.
What's the temperature? All winter, Cece. I need temperature updates on Georgia.
Oh, the temperature today, it's actually kind of chilly today. I think it's like 35.
Oh yeah, it was like 9 degrees this morning.
Yeah.
Next up,
Although it's supposed to be 19 on Sunday, so who knows?
You have to report back on that also.
Okay.
Next up on the show, from Behold an Electric Terror, member of the new class, please welcome Sophie.
Hey guys.
And last up tonight, coming to us from Indiana, one half of Cinema Fromage, please welcome Casey to the show.
Hello.
Casey has new glasses.
I do.
They are red.
They look super dapper. Nice.
They're tortoise shell.
Oh. Love it. We're here tonight to talk about Escape Room, you guys, which turns out it's just Saw without the Saw parts. Who knew?
No.
And
Yeah.
kind of better acting.
That's our show. See you next week.
Yeah. And
The
we're
end.
done. Before we get to that, though, got a little housekeeping. While we have two members of our wonderful spin-off shows here tonight, let's take the chance to talk about them. John Shelton, I want to toss to you first. What's going on in the world of What is Sophisticated Cinema, first of all, for people who don't know?
Oh, Sophisticated Cinema is the world of movies that are sophisticated and culty. That's where the name comes from.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you missed the opportunity to call it. You missed the opportunity to call it Sophisticulty.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we are we're going to get another episode out soon. We took a little holiday break. We're doing The Favorite, which is currently in cinemas. Olivia Colman just won a Golden Globe for it. So it's kind of a big release. It very likely is going to have some Oscar buzz. So we're doing that, and Vampiros Lesbos, which is a very classy movie.
It sounds like it.
That happens to star vampire women who love each other.
Oh.
So,
Oh, it's a love story.
You could say that, yeah.
Great. That sounds delightful.
That's what I told my wife when she walked in and I was watching it.
That sounds heartwarming. Great. So Sophisticated Cinema, your co-host over there, Andy. Does Schnars ever show up? Is that a regular thing, or is it only when he deems you worthy?
Yeah, you know, we keep a seat warm for him, but busy guy.
Oh, bro, believe me.
Yeah,
I get that feel.
I know. We can talk after the show.
Okay, we'll commiserate. Very
you guys
nice.
need to have a support group.
Yeah, very nice. The We Miss Schnars group. Next up, Sophie. Tell me about this burgeoning movement at Bloody Good Horror. Behold an Electric Terror.
Oh, I thought when you said burgeoning movement, you meant the pro Joshua Jackson movement. But
Oh.
I guess you did.
Actually,
They are related.
Now that you mention that, I'd like to talk about that as well.
So Behold an Electric Terror is one of the newer spin-off shows. It's hosted by Jason. He does a fantastic job sort of herding the rest of the cats that are the rest of the cast. So it's Jason and then myself, Andrew, and Luke, and we cover genre TV. We define that pretty broadly. And we're sort of in a cycle right now where we're reviewing about one full series or season a month so that people can catch up or, keep up if they want to. And then the rest of the time we're sort of doing picking random episodes out of series, typically that at least one of us have seen so that they can kind of offer context. It's a blast.
Well, and what have you what's the latest thing? What are you working on? What was the last show that was out?
So the last show that was out, very contentious. We watched an episode of Fringe, which was Jason's pick. For those of you that are, I guess, for those of you that are patrons and those of you that listen regularly, we put a poll out almost every week to determine what we're gonna watch next. So each cast member gets to pick a choice. Jason had put up this Fringe episode, and it became clear to me over the course of the week before the episode, because Andrew and I talk outside of the show, that he hates Joshua Jackson. And as I think maybe Joshua Jackson's biggest fan in the entire world, I didn't take that well. And we got into it on the show.
Yeah.
So then there was a lot of talk on Slack about
Which
sort of
then
needing to prove Andrew wrong.
Which then drew me in, who had no idea what was even happening. But I just came in and was like, is someone besmirching the name of Joshua Jackson in this room? Because
Thank you.
if they are,
Thank you.
then they are fired.
Yeah, I have literally in the last weeks, you can't watch. We learned this. You can't really watch Fringe anywhere anymore without buying all of the episodes, which is very expensive. So I'm now watching all of The Affair because I'm being reminded how much I love Joshua Jackson and needed some more Joshua Jackson in my life. So.
I was very excited for Fringe when it came out. I remember that would kind of felt like, ooh, this might be the next X-Files. And I watched.
Yeah.
I think I made it through the first season pretty entertained. And then second season, I just kind of I dropped out of it. For whatever.
Yeah, I should remember what episode the episode we watched was called Night of Desirable Objects, but I don't remember what season it was from. I mean, I liked it a lot, but I think I said on the show, I mean, again, we'll watch basically anything Joshua Jackson is in, but also love X-Files enough that anything else that sort of scratches that itch is fine by me. So this week we're talking about Doctor Who, so that'll be pretty exciting.
What I need to know as far as Joshua Jackson goes, as a man named Casey, what kind of a name is Pacey?
I mean, it's a totally fair question.
It's the name of
and I don't know the answer.
What is that short for?
It's the name of a.
I don't think it's short for anything.
Pastifer.
Fun fact: there's an episode of Dawson's Creek which guest stars Jonathan Lipnicki, who spends the entire episode making fun of Pacey's name, and he calls him Pacey. So there you go. Sophie knew that already, though. John Shelton, you look pregnant over there with Fringe thoughts. Do you have Fringe thoughts?
I liked it. I'm the opposite of you. I thought the first season was like okay, and then I thought it got a lot better in the second season, and it was pretty good. Then kind of dropped off at the end.
I'm trying to remember because I have this distinct memory. I'm pretty sure that show started around the time of the writer's strike, or like one of those seasons hit.
You might be right.
And
that sounds accurate, actually.
So when the writer's strike hit, up until that point, had been on a very I watched a lot of TV. Network TV, cable TV, every night, 3 hours a night, whatever. It was just what I did. And the writer's strike happened. I spent a whole winter not doing that. And I've literally never gone back. I've literally, it broke the spell for me. I was also around the time when, cable and streaming, those mostly, cable at the time, AMC, and that stuff was getting so much better that to watch network TV every night, I was just like, why am I doing this to my life? And I feel like Fringe was maybe a casualty of that change of heart.
It's one of those shows that I would say it started out really episodic. There was a monster of the week, and then it kind of switched over and became more of a long-term thing. And I think that's when it got good for me. I
do remember at the end of the first season, maybe, or they started having this mythos with a bald dude who was from another dimension or something.
Oh yeah, the Observer.
Yes.
Yeah.
The whole thing.
The smoking man. Cool. So Sophie, the other thing, tweet with BGH.
Yeah, so another thing that I do at Bloody Good Horror is I'm one of the people who does tweet with BGH. We try to do it once a month. It's myself and Spencer and Evan. And we've been sort of slowly working our way through the Purge franchise. We took a break around the holidays for Halloween and for Christmas. But we're going to be doing the next Purge movie, which is Election Year, on Sunday, January 27th. That's going to be at 8 p.m. Eastern. And there will be a drinking game up on the site the Thursday before. So there's a Facebook event, and I'll be posting about it in Slack as well as it gets closer.
Very nice. How do you feel about the Purge series now that you're working your way through it?
I mean, I feel just as meh about the first one every time I watch it. I feel like I really go back and forth on the second and third. I enjoyed the newest one a lot. I feel like the newest one sort of delivered on all the things that I wish all the other Purge movies would do better.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing that one was kind of the best. It's funny, going back to episode 500, I was listening to our original Purge episode, and one of the first things I said was why would you not make this movie from the point of view of the people who don't have houses that they're locked up inside? Like,
Right.
who approaches this story and goes like, guys, I really want to find out what these rich people are going through. It's just, it's crazy. And then they immediately corrected course for every movie after that because, like, obviously the cultural moment was happening too. But it's just insane. Seems crazy to me. But I actually think there's some interesting stuff to be had there because of that in that first movie. And Lena Headey's
Yeah.
pretty great. Fantastic. I'm not a big fan of Ethan Hawke. I don't like his face. I'm just gonna say that. He's no Joshua Jackson, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Well, no one can be.
Yeah.
John Shelton.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of handsome men, John Shelton. Something else you do besides Sophistical that you've been running this cult movie cult on Slack.
Yes, I'm starting a cult.
On Slack. Which is a sort of like participatory thing. Do you want to just go into that briefly?
Sure. So it's a thing we started it last year. It's kind of based on a thing that people do on Letterboxd, where there's 52 cult movie categories, and every week people watch. They pick a movie from that category and watch it. So we did our own version last year, where every week we would vote on a movie that was streaming somewhere widely available, and then all together we would watch it. So we're doing it again in 2019, but we're changing things up a little bit. We're not using the list that is on Letterboxd because some of those weeks were rough. Some of the categories were not great. So throwing that out, we're going to make our own categories. And one thing that we're doing to mix it up is once or twice a month, we're going to have people who are participating in the challenge, people on Slack, let them pick the movie for the week. Any movie you can find that's streaming, you can force other people to watch it. So, kind of a dream. So far, the first week we did, it was Larry Cohen week. We watched The Stuff, which is great.
Yeah, I love that movie.
This week was our first Slacker's Choice week. Our Slack friend, Dr. Out of Horror, picked this really crazy found footage movie I'd never heard of called Evidence. That I think Sophie, you watched it, right?
I did. I watched it today. It was bananas.
It's something. It's really something. Yeah, I'd never heard of this movie. It was like a $12,000 found footage movie. It's pretty good. It's interesting.
She was coming at me on Slack today hard, trying to get me to watch it. I was like, listen, I would love to. I'm not sure I'm going to have time. She's like, well, it's only 86 minutes.
Really
It
seems
is
like you should. It's very short. It's
Yeah.
very short.
I do like found footage movies. So,
And it's on Amazon Prime, right?
oh, is it nice? So, Shelton, if somebody wants to get involved with that, basically, they get on Slack. They have to jump into the Cult Movie Challenge channel, and then they can follow along in there. Is that right?
That's it. Yeah, and you don't have to. You don't have to do it every week. If you want to take a week off, if you don't want to watch the movie, that's fine. Just do what you do. You.
I watched one movie last year on that challenge. I jumped in, and I saw you had posted something. I don't remember the name of it. The really bizarre British slasher satire.
Oh yeah. It was something like Unmasked Part 25 or something like that.
Yeah, and so like it starts off. The dude's literally
that
wearing a hockey mask. It was mid 80s, maybe late 80s, and the first 10-20 minutes is actually just like kind of a really corny slasher, but kind of entertaining. Like, oh, this is, I don't know, like I guess I didn't realize what was coming because I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. So I'm watching it, and then he goes to kill a blind woman, but the blind woman like doesn't realize he's a killer and just starts talking to him. And then what you learn really quickly is that he's actually this like really sensitive kind of foppish like British dude who just has all these complicated feelings about his mother, and so she like helps him work his feelings out and stop killing people. It kind of gets unwatchable there once that part starts. But I did make it through most of it.
Well, I mean, who hasn't wondered what it would be like if Jason had a girlfriend?
Yeah. It's funny because I actually was like, geez, I kind of wish this movie was just the first 10 minutes for the whole thing. Because it actually does a serviceable job at just being a fun, dumb slasher. But
well, there is a fun bondage scene where
I love
the
fun
Jason
bondage.
character basically learns to explore his sexual boundaries.
Oh, good for him.
It's real weird.
Wow.
Sophie, so you guys might actually get a kick out of it. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
It was something. I had never heard of this movie, and I'm kind of surprised I haven't. It seems
Oh.
like the kind of movie that
I mean, the
people
other
would-
thing that makes it bizarre for me is it's full of what I will call quote unquote British humor. and so and so it's like I can't tell what's supposed to be a joke and what isn't, and I'm just like, this is I don't know what I'm even watching right now.
They're all jokes, and you just don't get them, Eric.
Yeah, I know. It's clear. All right, guys. Cece, really quickly, the book club.
Yes.
Book club is back on and popping.
Yes. We are starting in February, and hopefully this year we'll have more crossover between the book club and Something Read episodes. So you'll be
Nice.
getting a double dose of all of your bookish needs. So you can find us on Goodreads, or you can go to the website and click on the Goodreads tab to get there.
Love it.
Or join the Slack, because there's a lot of book talk on that channel all the time.
I'm still stuck in my continuous cycle of rereading A Song of Ice and Fire, and I just can't.
Are you like so excited that it's April? Like,
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. I was slightly disappointed by last season. I'm not gonna lie. It had probably the best battle scene, or one of them in the whole series. But then
right.
everything with the characters last season was just a hot mess. So
Yeah.
I'm nervous about. There's a lot going on. It's funny. I have a lot more thoughts on this now that I've read the books. I feel like there's definitely an argument to be made that George Martin basically made a mess that he hasn't yet had to clean up, and so the creators of the show have had to make a lot of really tough decisions to get them to the final thing, because he wrote the book with all these like splayed out storylines and hasn't had to do the work yet of bringing it home in a coherent way, whereas they do. But at the same time, I feel like they're rushing to the finish line and kind of sacrificing a lot of what makes those characters interesting, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how much it's going to differ when Martin gets around to writing his book, because I'm like, is he waiting for the show to do it and him say, okay, I see where they messed up, let me fix it here?
Part of me holds out hope that he basically has at least some of it done. And yeah, basically just letting the show get out of his way so that then there's no pressure. And then he can just kind of finish it on his own
predict a
terms.
novelization of the show for his final book.
But they're just But the only other thing that I've been like thinking about reading is reading through Southern Reach trilogy again. But just like nothing, I've just like the idea of reading a new book is not grabbing me right now. I don't know.
I'm behind on the book club, and I just finished this week Final Girls that was on the book club last year. I don't remember what month, but I got back into reading this year and was going through the list from last year and added a bunch of books. That's a good book, and I hope to see a movie of it someday.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Nice. Didn't we see a movie called Final Girls? Not the same thing?
No,
not the same
Tragedy
thing.
Girl.
No,
there was a Final Girls, too.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Totally different.
Cool. Very cool. All right, guys. It's time. Let's take a quick break and discuss Escape Room.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch. Main feature.
And we're back. First time in the theater in a while. Anybody see any new trailers? I definitely saw. Oh, wait. I wrote one down. I was just going to say I saw one I forgot, but I wrote it down. Anybody? Trailers?
I'm pretty excited for Replicants with Keanu.
Oh,
That was
yes,
pretty
I
fun.
love Keanu.
Replicant. Isn't that in the theater now?
It
I
might
think
be.
it comes out this week.
No, I think it already came out because I'm pretty. You know why? Because I'm pretty sure I accidentally walked into a screening of it and it was the wrong theater, and I sat down and I was like, "Boy, this sure seems like it's the middle of a movie and not a trailer." And I remember seeing Keanu Reeves and I got a block. It's the first time I've done that in years, actually. No, this movie called. So there's this movie called The Intruder that looked kind of interesting with
Oh, yeah.
Dennis Quaid.
Yeah.
And it's basically this young couple.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
Megan Good and this other dude, and they buy Dennis Quaid's house. Dennis Quaid sounds like his like wife died in this house that they built together, and then Dennis Quaid like keeps coming around and acting like it's his house and being really creepy. And I was just kind of really. It looks kind of pulpy and fun. Dennis Quaid hamming it up, but also I thought it was interesting that they actually just cast a black couple as the leads, because I feel like that's really rare for movies like this. So I'm pretty excited about just like that whole dynamic of it. But
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Oh, okay. There has been other movies named The Intruder. There was another one in 1962. So I wonder if that's what comes up when I search it. So I wonder if it's a remake. But anyway, that was a new one. That looked kind of interesting. John Shelton,
Yes, sir.
did you go to Duke?
Absolutely not.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to a public liberal arts college just outside of Birmingham, Alabama.
Ugh, liberal arts. Am I right?
Yeah, really.
Hey. I was about to say, what?
What's it like going
But
to
I did get my master's from George Washington, which is pretty fancy. So
the man himself?
yes, yeah.
What?
Personal
Dug him
study.
up and stole it from him.
What's going to
It
college
was
like?
like national treasure.
I can't even picture what Alabama at all is like. What's it like going to college there?
It's like
You must have been the smartest person there, like by far.
No, I went to a college full of a bunch of weirdos and interesting people. So
You've been telling these like insane stories on Slack. Just like
they're all lies.
you have had one of the most fascinating like growing up stories that I've ever heard, and people keep telling you to write a book, and you need to get on it.
I think it's most interesting in 2 sentence form. Then
I highly doubt
Well,
that. I'm still waiting the book. All right, John. If you ever write that book one day, you will use words to do that,
maybe.
which is good because you know a bunch of words, and because of that, we selected you to fill in for Schnars this week. Not even fill in. It's all you, buddy. So please bring
wow.
us the word of the day.
What an honor. So the word of the day today is egress. EGRESS. It is a noun, can also be used as an intransitive verb. The definition is a place or means of going out or exit. It's basically a fancy word for exit. Probably the most famous, the reason I know this word egress is it has a famous story with P.T. Barnum that he had some kind of museum of weird sideshow curiosity kind of things. And people would just take too long in there. He could only have so many people in at a time, and people would, look at all the weird mummified monkeys and shit. So he put up a sign that said, "This way to the egress," and people, not knowing what an egress is, thought that would be a cool thing to see, and they would walk through it. And it was a door to the outside that locked behind them. So
That's amazing.
fun
yeah,
story.
Isn't egress
And
just
so
like
this
a
movie
door?
being an escape room movie, they are looking for the egress in each of the rooms, and there you go.
Wow.
They'd also be trying to egress, right?
You know what I love about
That
that?
is true.
You know what I love about that word of the day, John? It actually
What's
has to do with the movie.
Are they not supposed to?
Well, I mean, in theory, yes.
They're supposed to.
Yes, in theory, yes.
I'm sorry, I was a little too on topic with that.
No, that was perfect.
No.
You don't apologize for that. That's beautiful. All right, guys. Escape room. It's like a Saw movie without the cutting of tendons and stuff, basically. We got a bunch of people. They don't know each other, and they each get this weird like bootleg Hellraiser cube thing in the mail. They each figure it out in their own hilarious ways that is supposed to tell you something about their personality. Although all ways seem to open the box, which is interesting. And it tells them like, "Hey, bro, come to this escape room. It'll be cool." So they do it. They show up. There's like 5 or 6 people there. They're in a room, and they realize quickly that this room that they think is the waiting room is actually just the first part of this escape room. They're all there for different reasons, right? It's like some people's lives aren't going well. Some people are just amazing businessmen, Shelton, and they're just looking for another challenge in life. But everybody has their own different reason, which, as you might guess, gets revealed to us throughout the movie. And spoiler alert, they might be intertwined, but we'll learn more about that later. So they're stuck in this escape room, and before they leave the first room, most of them realize that, hey, this seems like a little more serious than your basic escape room. I think we might be in trouble here. By the time I leave the second room, they're all pretty sure that that's the case. So then it becomes a horror movie, and they're trying to escape the escape rooms. And then, more things reveal themselves as they go on things are revealed. It doesn't really illuminate anything because it makes no damn sense. I'm pretty sure this movie was written by the Lawnmower Man guy. But I can't wait for the 4-hour director's cut of Escape Room. And yeah,
More chimps.
and here we are. So let's get right into it here. John Shelton, why don't you tell me what you thought of this movie?
Oh boy. So this movie, I was pretty interested to see it. I like escape rooms. I like puzzles, that kind of thing. I just did an escape room like a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, this is perfect.
You okay?
I'm just saying this is perfect timing. You can tell me.
Oh,
You
yeah.
can tell us all about
Yeah.
it.
No, I went with my family over the holidays, and
Did you
we
get
escaped.
out?
We did.
Oh.
Yeah.
Was it like this movie?
I mean, there was less fire, and they did not build the outdoors inside a building. But other than that, pretty close. Yeah. Um, so yeah, this looked like good dumb fun, and for the most part, it was. Emphasis on dumb, but I don't know. We can get into some of the issues later, especially towards the end. But for the most part, um, I was engaged. I was trying to like decide what this movie was about. I think that was one of the fun things throughout the movie is how are they going to wrap this up? It could go in this direction or this direction, um, and yeah. So for the most part, I thought it was completely adequate.
CC.
Yeah, I kind of feel pretty much the same. I didn't really watch any trailers, so I tried to go in with a relatively clean slate. And, I realized at the very beginning that I didn't need to try and poke holes at anything and just enjoy it for what it was. So I ended up having a really good time and enjoying it. I did feel like it was a bit like the Saw movies, just with better acting and less torture, obviously. So yeah, I really actually enjoyed it and had fun until the last like 15 minutes, and then I was like, I don't know why this is happening.
It's a great question, Sophie. Why is this happening?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I wish I could tell you. Much like Pacey's name, I do not have an explanation. Yeah, I mean, not to be too repetitive, but I sort of feel the same way. I think watching this movie again, I think I said might have been pre-show. I saw this movie at a Regal Cinemas located inside of a casino, so it was not very crowded. And I was sort of like far enough back that I was just taking notes on my phone. And in the beginning, I was taking a lot of notes about silly plot holes and things that were dumb, and then realized that just was going to take too much energy and I would miss the entire movie. And you would think that I would then come out of that experience being mad, but I can't even be mad at this movie. I mean, it was not a great movie, but I mostly had fun watching it. And I think, Eric, you said over email, like they sort of set it up for there to be sequels. And I think I'll be excited if there's a sequel, which it does. I guess it doesn't. I didn't think that would be the case when I started watching the movie. But yeah, I think it's kind of a neat idea. And I liked getting to see people try to get out of these rooms, even if the ways that they got out seemed pretty absurd and convoluted.
Yeah. Casey.
Yeah, I'm right there with everybody else. This is dumb fun. I'd like the cast a lot in this movie. They had some heavy hitters like Deborah Ann Wall and Tyler Labine. Both of them are pretty great. Mm-hmm. Usually when they show up on camera, and the rest of the cast that was with them were pretty solid too. So it all made to be a pretty enjoyable watch for the most part. I mean, the most fun in this was to get into how over the top all the rooms were and everything. Early on, there was you could say that a lot of the rooms were themed to go along with the people that were going through there, and it was kind of fun to try and piece that together. Then that kind of went to the wayside by the end of the movie, at least from what I could figure out. And then other than that, this movie went on like 10, 15 minutes too long. There was a definite end I think they should have ended at, and then they tacked on some more to try and up the franchise quotient, and that was kind of a bummer. But other than that, pretty solid matinee flick.
Yeah, I'll give this movie like a compliment sandwich, or like maybe just like a open face compliment sandwich, because it's just this one compliment off top. This movie did the one thing. Before I say everything else I have to say, I will say that it did the one thing that it needed to do, absolutely needed to do, which was have creative and sort of visually inspired puzzles and sequences set around the escape room concept. It totally does that, and I think in a lot of scenes manages some like pretty decent tension and fun. I would say there is no excuse for how bad the script is in a lot of ways. Like the movie starts off and just like it right away kind of tells you the level you're working on here, because the movie starts off and there's this bro character. He's like a bro. He's like a sales bro. He sells stuff.
Sales, bro.
He sells stuff. He's a bro. He's ripped. He's like all about selling stuff and being a rich and being a sell bro.
I think he's like supposed to be a stockbroker.
Yeah.
Sure.
It
He
was very
sells.
Wolf of Wall Street.
He sells
feeling.
something. He might as well be widgets, whatever it is. He's basically just like because that's how generic.
Widgets.
That's how generic the whole thing
Business.
is. But he literally has this phone conversation to like. So they only introduce you to like three-ish people before you get to the escape room, which Shelton mentioned or somebody in the email. Like it's kind of weird because they only introduce you to the people that end up being important later, even though there's
Yeah.
some other characters that are interesting and should have maybe played more of a play in it.
And better.
Well,
Mhm.
in some cases, yeah. But like, so this sales guy, but these three characters that is it just three? It's stoner dude, bro, sales bro, and
And the main girl.
Smart girl.
Wicked smart
Yeah.
girl.
yes, and is that it? Just the three? So yeah, so they
Yeah.
each get these like really just quick ham-fisted attempts at giving you all the character information you need. And for the sales bro, it's like this phone call where he's like talking to his boss, or like his assistant comes in, he's like, "Hey, is the boss calling to tell me how good I am at salesing?" And the kid's like, "Yeah, bro, you know how good you are at salesing." And then he gets on the phone, he's like, "Thank you, boss. You know me. I just work hard and I sales stuff. Blah blah blah." It's like it is the one of the worst written dialogue scenes that I've ever seen.
My most hated part of that though is when the kid brought in the box and he said, "I bet it better be a Tesla."
It just like it felt when you look at the way the script and the dialogue is handled, which sucks because there's actually some characters that are really interesting. I think in particular this female Iraq War veteran who had like a lot of potential, and I really like the main character. This actress is like really charismatic. I think the overall kind of sketch of her character was fine and worked with the movie. The problem is that like anything that goes into shaping the characters or their interactions feels like it came out of like, you know, somebody who lives in LA and they're trying to learn screenwriting at night after their waitering job, and they're doing like a workshop script and they're trying to put together their first big boy script, and it's like, so they've got the pieces there. I understand what they're trying to do, but none of it has any nuance, I guess, is my problem. And
Yeah, it
yeah.
felt for me like the first draft of the script.
it's like baby's
Like
first
they had sketched out like here's all the characters, here's the way it's going to interact, here's how it's, here's the different rooms.
right, like, oh,
But don't
this
forget
is,
that they got far enough to be like the thing that made me the craziest, aside from the how ham-fisted the backstories were, was when they wanted to show you in real time, like, okay, the war veteran was the only survivor of an IED. If I had had a shot every time they showed the scar on her back, I wouldn't have made it half an hour. Like every single person has some physical mark on their body that the camera cuts to over and over and over and
Yeah, that's
over and
true.
Well,
over
and then they
again.
throw in a flashback as well, just in case you can't piece
In
it
case you
together.
didn't get it.
yeah,
That
it's all just
this
really
person with scars who they've said thank you for your service. Let's just really push it home here.
it's all really on the nose. I do agree, like, with what Cece was talking about. There's definitely, if you can kind of go into this and shut your brain off, I think there's a decent amount of fun to be had. I really loved the design. You know, we talked about the upside down set is really cool. Even the first room is great. I loved the winter area was really neat. I had a lot of questions while watching it as to what type of technology, like, are we dealing with magic, or like, there's a scene where he runs into a wall that's exactly like the digital wall in Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
at that
Mhm.
point, like, yeah, okay, it's kind of a cool visual, but at that point you're like, what is the universe isn't really clear as to what kind of is capable of in this universe, if that makes sense. That like
Yeah, it's not clear on the rules.
from the second you start Cabin in the Woods, you're clear what kind of weird ass sci-fi universe you're in. It's sort of not here, and that stuff gets even crazier at the end of the movie where they try to do a bunch of really unearned stuff.
Well, I think that's what really pissed me off about the last 15 minutes is that, like, you get kind of, like you were saying with the winter room, like, you get this introduction to, like, how far reaching this company is. And then when the end happens and you're kind of, like, shown, kind of like the behind the scenes aspect of the whole game, it's just really frustrating because you're like, it felt like somebody was like, oh, we should maybe explain it a little bit, so let's throw this in the last 10 minutes.
Well, literally an hour and 20 minutes in, all of a sudden, like, a Tobin Bell Saw-esque dude shows up on a screen as, like, a disembodied head. And you're
Yeah.
like, what?
Yeah.
like I said, a lot of that stuff is just unearned. I guess we can get to the ending here in a little bit. I want to talk about some of the rooms in particular, but also just I know I'm not really joking when I say this is a Saw movie without the torture. Like if you actually look at the structure, if you look at the structure of it, it's a bunch of people thrown in the room. You don't know really much about them at first, but throughout the movie, like their connection is revealed, right? That's been the last few Saw sequels. And it's all about the tension of they're in a room, they got to figure out how to get out, and then some of them die trying to get out, right? The difference is you're not trying to dig a key out of like a toilet bowl full of hypodermic needles, which which is honestly like kind of nice that I don't have to watch that, it's the funny thing is it made me realize how effective that Saw formula can actually be when you're not making me watch just the most vile shit possible.
Yeah. I mean, I was honestly surprised. It was so close to the formula for Saw that I would not have been surprised or probably not even upset if there was a little jigsaw doll on a tricycle that came rolling out in one of the rooms. It wouldn't have surprised me.
Well, that's the funny thing, right? Because in Saw, he straight up comes out and tells you what you have to do to get out of the room, whereas in here, obviously, it's more the escape room thing. And Shelton, I don't know if you have any kind of like, or anybody has like escape room knowledge. I looked on Wikipedia a little bit, and as near as I can tell, it started around 2004, which is the same year that Saw came out. So there's actually a really fascinating like link between escape rooms and Saw, and now it's like the adaptation of the you know what I mean? Like it's now morphed into this, which is kind of fascinating. It's like the musical version.
And there's
of
a
the
lot
movie.
of crossover too, because a lot of escape rooms are horror movie themed. The one that I just did was like a mental institution. I've done one before that was a zombie theme. So yeah, it kind of lends itself to a horror movie, and clearly they're trying to kick off a franchise with this, and it's for all the faults of this movie, it's not a bad idea for a franchise, and it could go really interesting places. It's just the movies are going to be as good as the rooms, and so
and the PG thinking of it in that light, like you're talking about making the franchise and especially on how big like escape rooms are in the culture and stuff like that. Especially family oriented, making this PG-13, I think, was probably a pretty smart choice because it opens up their audience for people that because you got a wide width of ages that are going to be taking part in escape rooms, probably get into them, and that opens it up to them to be able to see it without sneaking in and stuff like that.
It's funny because I literally cannot think of something I would want to do less than go into an escape room.
Yeah, it does not sound appealing to me at all.
They're super fun.
It's like it's like.
I sort of hope they do a sequel. Like, if they do sequels, I hope they do one. So I have, some offices will do an escape room as like a team building activity.
Yeah.
I would love to see a movie. I guess that would just be the Belko experiment. I would love to see a movie that's just like a team in an office that gets stuck in a
Well,
I mean, so the like game right there, kind of like the game master was talking about how like the viewers because it kind of had like this hostile twist to it that like the viewers always needed something new, and that it was savants before, or it was all
something like Olympic athletes. So
I mean, it could be a setting where it's an office building, or I mean not an office building, but like an office team. So it definitely gave itself a lot of room for the future. That's for sure.
You know what I really hate, Sophie? Team building exercises.
What? I do too.
That sounds like my literal worst nightmare.
I'll catch you, Eric. I promise.
Or like any kind of class, any kind of like group project in class. That's basically what this looks like to me. Is like a group project plus more anxiety. Let's talk about. So the first room we get in is like the fire room. Essentially, it's the waiting room, but then it turns into this room with the fire, and I'm immediately in this scene thinking. So there's a character who, he's like a kid who's obsessed with escape rooms and has done a ton of them. I immediately wanted this kid to die. He is. Yeah. I feel like they put him in here because, and that's like a lot of this movie feels focus grouped. A lot of this movie feels like it was written by someone who, or like edited by someone who doesn't think anybody knows about escape rooms. Like they clearly felt like they had to put this character in to give a lot of context, especially in the beginning. Because he's literally like, well, escape rooms are this, and then you do this, and you're just like, dude, I'm gonna fucking kill you. I hate you so much.
I can see that. I can see your point, and I don't think you're wrong. But at the same time, in today's age and internet age, they're fanboys for everything. So it's not really surprising that there'd be somebody there like that.
No, I don't have a problem with a character. But what I'm saying is like because the writing is so unsubtle, it becomes a really obvious device to just give a bunch of context about escape rooms to the audience.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm just saying it's not entirely unrealistic though either.
No, it's
Yeah,
just
but
annoying.
this character was just gamer kid, and like every character in this movie could be described by like a 2-word phrase
Yeah.
or one word even. There's
Yep.
gamer kid, there's veteran, there's like
Stoner grocer,
dad,
Smart
dad
girl.
guy. I don't know.
Yeah.
dad sweater. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ty-
And I think that just goes back to the fact that this is just a script that does feel like somebody took a screenwriting class, came up with a pretty good idea,
Right,
that
but
is
just didn't quite have
franchisable, and
like,
they just went with it.
didn't quite have the grace to like tie all the threads together the right way. You know what I mean? Tyler Labine is actually really interesting in this movie because he normally plays really likable characters, but he's sort of he's not a bad character, so to speak, but he's unlikable. He's kind of supposed to be annoying.
Well, he's not funny. He's like
Yeah.
typically like the comic relief guy.
Right.
He's usually your stoner buddy, but he's like he's on a new turn because he's on that new show, drama show, New Amsterdam. That he's a gay doctor, I believe, and and he's pretty good in it and everything. He's kind of taken a new turn on his career, I think. So this kind of fits in there, but
He's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's pretty good here. It's like an interesting thing. He's supposed to just kind of be like he says his nephew signed him up for it, and so he's just making everyone uncomfortable and annoyed, and it's kind of interesting to watch. I feel like.
which is kind of dumb when you think about it too, because everybody else they sent these fancy Hellraiser boxes to, right, and invited them in there, so they picked him out for something. But yet his nephew signed him up. But yet we find out later
Well, no,
there is a
no.
reason for him to be there.
No, but the way so. I mean, I
Or
guess
did he assume his nephew signed him up?
yes. I think the way that
Okay.
it's kind of described in the movie is that spoiler alert. I guess we should warn, but at this point we'll start getting into more the plot. But like, yeah, everybody who was invited was basically tricked into thinking they were being invited by a person, which is like, again, all along the way, they make sort of these decisions that get them from point A to point B, but don't make sense. Like they're banking on the fact that none of these people would speak to these people that they think invited them to this weird thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And this, especially with him, where it's his nephew. Like you're not going to mention it to him when you get this weird Hellraiser cube in the mail from your nephew.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
It's
Well,
like
I
little
mean-
stuff all the way through the movie, right? So like then they're in the fire,
Yeah.
they're in the fire room, and I don't want to kind of spoil all the puzzles, but there's like a thing where they use water to put a weight on something, and then he's like, well, they don't have enough glasses, and so or enough water or something, so then he pulls out his flask and he dumps like a shot of liquor into this glass, and that somehow is enough to weigh it down. And it's just like it's a little nitpicky thing, but it's the whole movie's like that. It's like little logical inconsistencies that you just have to run with, but eventually they were starting to drive me insane.
Yeah, that
Actu-
really felt like it was setting up something where all of them were going to have some kind of like, secret vice that they had to use to solve the puzzle or something. But it never really
Yeah.
came back. Like it was just that one. He just happened to bring his flask with him.
Right, like
And
even
it
though
happened to like relate to his backstory, but it never really came back for anybody else.
right, and he wasn't drunk, he wasn't really drinking during the whole thing or anything. Yeah. Anybody else just have like a favorite room?
I mean,
really li-
I really liked the psychedelic, like epileptic room.
Yeah, I
Ugh.
thought that was pretty
Like,
dope.
which I was really I didn't get an epileptic or like a seizure warning when I went into the theater. So like the whole movie, I kept waiting to be like, what was going on? And then when that scene happened, I was like, oh,
So
yeah,
I-
we definitely
Yeah.
should have had a warning
I
too.
posted it because in my theater, above the like Fandango kiosk, there was like a hastily printed out like laser printer sheet that just said like
Yeah.
I posted in Slack. It just said like there if you're going to see Escape Room, there's a sequence that could like if you're sensitive to flashing whatever.
Were you at a chain, like a chain theater?
Yeah, it was AMC.
Interesting, because I went to a Regal and I didn't have one either, but
Yeah.
I had the
Yeah,
same.
I
I knew
didn't
you had
either.
posted it, and I had actually forgotten about it. And as soon as that scene happened, I was like, oh, I remember now that Eric posted about it.
It's a great scene, and one of the few moments where I felt like the character motivations come together in a pretty clean way, and then there's a pretty intense fight scene, and it's just like I really enjoy in movies when people try to approximate what a tripping experience is like because of how good CG is now. I feel like they do a really good job, and it's like terrifying.
Nice. Yeah, I really like the upside down room myself. It was kind of cool, and like even with when they first walked in, and then it rose up, didn't it? Like an elevator.
Yes, they
Am
feel
I
the,
mistaken on that?
Yeah.
they feel the whole thing go up.
Yeah, it felt super elaborate and everything, and watching them climb around and stuff was kind of cool. And then all of a sudden, as the floors started dropping out and whatnot, it added a good bit of attention to it.
Yeah,
At
And
least
it
for me.
offered for some cool camera shots because when they first come in, they're shooting the bar right side up, right, and then the camera turns, so you see they're upside down, which was to be expected. But I really liked when is it Amanda DeWall? What's her name? Casey?
Deborah Ann Wall.
Deborah Ann Wall. When she's like climbing around on the back side of the bar, and they have a really cool shot where they are shooting the bar right side up, so that she's upside down, her hair is like hanging straight upwards, basically. That was a really cool shot too. That was my favorite room.
Yeah,
too.
they do some cool perspective shifts with the camera. That's a scene where you really have to put your brain on hold because there's a bunch of great just physical tension, but the puzzle stuff was a little lackluster for me in that like just in the sense of like it's one of the few that you can't really follow it and they solve stuff immediately after spending up. I don't know. It's kind of it's a little weak in that room, but then it's balanced out by
That's
just
fair.
being so tense. And I loved the recurring like AOL connection sound and the like the phone ringing was a great tension device because of the callback that it kept kind of being.
Yeah. Well, what annoyed me in that room, one of the puzzles that they solved was, the smart girl looked across there's like a jukebox or something. There's all these album covers, and she realizes it's a slide puzzle, and goes over to solve it. But that's not how slide puzzles work. Like she doesn't actually make anything with it. She just kind of makes a circle in the middle,
It's not
and then there's like bars of color, and I'm like, that's not a slide puzzle.
Yeah.
Like you make a picture. Like you don't just.
Dude,
I don't know. That was really bizarre.
I had literally.
And I thought, did I miss something?
I had literally the same exact thought. There were several moments like that in the movie where something happened and I just went, "Wait, what?" Because they just.
And then whatever they explain, they're like, "Okay, well, there's 3 blue and 4, and that's a code." And I was just like, "I will take your word for it."
And
movie.
they keep like when it happens, they always move on really fast. So you're just sitting there like trying to scratch it out in your phone or something, just like figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I think they were just counting on people thinking they were too dumb to.
The other thing that pissed me off about that scene is like, so the floor keeps dropping out, and at one point there's almost no floor left, and Stoner grocery store kid, like, so the war vet is like hanging by a thread basically, and he grabs a pool stick. He's got 6 inches of floor he's standing on with no leverage, and he's
not holding on to anything.
He holds out a pool stick with one arm, and he's like, "Here, jump on this muscular lady who's twice my size," and thank God that's not the way it goes down because I would have lost my shit. It's just like, even just the idea that he thought that was gonna work made me so mad.
At least he tried, though.
I guess.
I guess.
I guess.
Well, in the next room, there was a similar thing where, the smart girl starts figuring things out, and she notices there's cameras everywhere, and starts smashing those. But the thing that she takes to smash the cameras is like an IV bag holder, which is literally like a thin piece of metal that has no weight to it. And she's like banging the room and trying to like bust through stuff.
Yeah,
and
it's
it's
not like she flipped it upside down and used the feet of the IV.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Like you're not going to get any kind of anything from that.
That
This
whole
is like
scene,
a thin piece of metal.
That whole scene to me is where the train starts getting like a little rickety on the tracks because
that's where I got the feeling where I was like, oh, maybe they're not going to pull this one off.
It's the first.
They're not going to land the plane.
Yeah, it's the first scene where like the execution is so clumsy that it's almost impossible to follow, and then I think then you have the flashy bit with the confrontation with the two characters, and then you come back and you find out that this one character that you thought was dead but you knew wasn't because it's like the main character is actually alive. But like this is the point at which it literally, you know how like when your car starts fishtailing, it starts like a little bit at first, but then you overcorrect, and then next thing you know you're just doing this on the road. Like that's what happens in this movie by the time you find out this character's still alive, and it just goes off the rails.
That's why it has so
Yeah.
many endings.
This
They're
whole
just swinging back
section,
and
this
forth.
whole section comes in at the end that feels like disembodied from the entire movie. They introduce this like Tobin Bell-esque character that is on screen for 10 seconds, and then you know this big huge operation, but there's only like 2 security guards. You know, it doesn't. They so don't stick the landing in this movie. It's actually insane, which is crazy because all they had to do was just end it with the survivors and just be like, "That's
Yeah.
it. It's all a mystery. What happened? I don't know. Or go live your life now. Have fun."
Yeah, and then write a
Well-
sequel and figure it out.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah,
well, dude.
exactly.
Yes. Like you didn't. There was no need to go where they did here. So like you have
Yeah.
two, and obviously like, big spoiler alert for the ending here, but like you have 2 characters who make it out, and then so I'm to believe that these people, just were so. I mean, of course, I guess right. It's a horror movie, but they're so obsessed with the game that they don't just hunt these 2 down and murder them. They wait like a year for this like insanely complicated plan to exact their revenge. Like, are you fucking kidding? What is that?
Well, weren't they going to put them in, start a new room with them because they were going to be like the theme for the next one or something?
Well, they're gonna get. Well, I don't. I mean, we don't have to get into the whole thing, but I'm just saying, like, they wouldn't just go murder them. That's my point. Like, what
Yeah.
really? It's so silly.
I don't know.
Which-
I would
which-
love for somebody to explain the ending of this movie to me.
Which maybe
the
would have.
whole
Yeah,
plane
because
thing,
maybe
like,
would've
I
made-
have no clue what they were going
It
for.
might
with
have
that.
made sense because here's the thing. Like, it might have made sense if the Jigsaw-esque character had any kind of motivation attached to him, but he
Right.
doesn't. Right? Like in Saw.
Or if he was in the movie.
In Saw.
that too.
In Saw, like you understand that Tobin Bell is a singular obsession with forcing people to appreciate their lives, right? Which is like, all right, that doesn't always make sense in the context of the movie, but you've given me a reason, and so now I have a reason to go along with you and just believe this insane shit he does. Whereas
Yeah.
like they don't even hint at like the higher power until the very end, and then they don't explain any of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's basically like Big Brother, right? I mean, isn't that the whole premise of the show that or
Yeah.
the movie
Well-
that people are watching this, but
Well, and I was gonna say,
just watch
like,
Big Brother.
spoiler alert for another movie that we've already talked about, but like the reveal at the end of this movie is basically the same reveal that happens at the end of Unfriended Dark Web, where it's like,
Oh.
and there's this
Well-
shadow network, and they want to watch this happen, and you don't know why, and that's the end.
Dude, it's
like,
also
Yeah.
the ending of the Belko experiment. Like literally, they're in a really similar,
right.
they're in a really similar room with like a wall of monitors showing nonsense, you know, and it's
And
just
the
Yeah.
ending of Hostel and
Yeah.
Yeah.
a million
I
other
mean-
movies.
But I think that where this one falls apart because with like that hospital room part is where this started to fall apart for me too. But then the fact though that they don't give you any hint up until the very end that there is this overpowering thing. That's why Jigsaw and Tobin Bell worked in Saw, because he was throughout the end and narrating it and telling you why they're in there. Whereas this one, it felt like they got to that hospital room. They're like, oh shit, we forgot Jigsaw, and so they slapped a guy up on the screen
it's.
and then kind of tacked some shit on
I
at
mean
the
that
end to
when
make it fit.
when I say this movie feels focus tested, you could almost I could see a situation where like maybe there was just no ending like this, and then there were reshoots because people wanted to know more and they just tacked it on. It feels so tacked on.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mhm.
that has to have been what happened.
Well, speaking of the focus groups and tacked on, did anybody else think so? At the start of this, as we went through the first room, which was the waiting room that turned, spoiler alert, oven like, and then they got into the frozen room. Those two, the waiting room, obviously with the oven stuff, was centered. It felt like it was connected to Deborah Ann Wall with her burn scars and everything like that.
Mhm.
And then you get to the frozen one, and there's the whole story about business dude and his friend getting stuck out on the ocean and a boat capsized and all that stuff and freezing to death because he was talking about the parka. They had the parka there. Then you get to the upside down room, and there's really no explanation on who that might connect
Yeah,
to.
you're actually right. They sort of totally abandoned that thread after that, right?
What? And then they get
I
to
had
the
to wonder
hospital
if it
room.
may be related to the Taylor Labine, like maybe that was a bar he and his brother used to go to after because they were minors, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there was a really quick shot when they walk into the room
And
where
he
he
says
like it cuts to
something.
him and he has like a reaction shot, but they don't ever go back to it. But
That's
I just made
possible.
that assumption. But that's the movie should explain that. That goes too far.
Yeah, but then they follow it up with the hospital room where everybody's got a connection to that room, and there's something for everybody.
Yeah, like, oh, it's my
and then
bedroom.
the last two rooms have nothing to do with anybody.
Like for some
Well,
reason,
we don't know that. What if Gamer Guy was like a crazy druggie?
That's true.
Yeah.
if only
That's fair.
if only there was a way for the movie to have communicated this information to us previously, like just telling us.
Wouldn't that piss you off though if you're like the rich overlord and you designed that room for Gamer Guy who is a big druggie and he died in like the second room?
Son of a bitch.
But again,
Just
like
really banking on people surviving long enough to get to the room that you set up for them.
like the gamer guy's whole deal is that he was drinking. Like that's what caused his issue. You know what I mean? It wasn't even anything about drugs.
No, Gamer
was-
Guy
no,
was
that's
the
the other
nerdy
guy.
guy.
Oh,
At the
Oh,
beginning.
that
You're
gamer
talking about
kid.
Grocery Guy.
Gamer
Yeah.
kid.
Yeah.
He's just
Not
Exposition.
movies of the game.
he's just a gamer guy. But yeah, like then that hospital scene where it really starts to go off the rails. Like all their bedrooms are there for some reason, and I guess that's to show them that they've been being watched or something. It's that scene.
Well, that's when they try to hammer home the idea that all of this is they're all connected because they've all had second chances.
The whole reveal too about the oxygen mask thing is like they're so precious about it, which is hilarious because it makes zero sense. Like the whole way they set it up makes
Did not get that.
no damn sense. Like because you don't see them until afterwards, and you saw her pass out.
Like far away
Yeah.
from it.
Yeah, like nowhere near it. It doesn't make any sense. That
And
scene-
presumably the oxygen masks wouldn't work. I mean, even if they were there, they presumably would not be functional because that would defeat the purpose of the room.
Yeah, if you're designing a giant death room, why would you pump oxygen through the mask?
It's a good point, Casey. It's a good point.
That's Sophie's point. That's a great thought.
mean,
why would you do that?
But again, and then just like this whole big operation, and you have two not very well trained armed dudes, and that's it. That's your only security.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, in that room, one of the puzzles they had to solve was based on sign language, which if the guy who knew sign language had died earlier,
Right.
game's
fucked.
over for everybody. Like, I really don't think they thought this escape room through. very
Again,
well.
this is like where I'm saying just none of it holds up to any kind of scrutiny, unfortunately, and it does get worse. It does get continually worse as the movie goes on. So even though, like, the best stretch of the movie is heat room to ice room to is in the upside down room after that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like that's by far the strongest stretch of the whole movie, which is like basically the first two acts, and then it's just.
But I have a
it's
serious
shit show.
question for you guys. When they're in the frozen room and they get a hole in the ice and they drop the fishing line with the weight on it, it sounds like that water is conservatively 30 feet deep, and they're in a skyscraper in Chicago.
Well,
Listen,
but they also had the
Sophie.
upside down room that rose up. So
Yeah,
they
so I
obviously
think
had
You
some
think they
room
were
to play
like
with.
really? You think they were really high up and the?
They couldn't have been.
How?
They could have dug it into the ground.
Yeah.
That was my biggest question later on in the movie when the cops go back and they're like, we couldn't find any evidence. It's like there was a 30-foot deep lake.
And they
Yeah.
just
Well,
and
How
they
did they get
were
rid of
also
that?
outside while they were in a skyscraper. So
yeah.
Yeah.
and
maybe,
they just
you know.
had left. Like they
Yeah,
came
where about
back
all
with
the
the
water
cops.
Yeah, they had been gone for like 24 hours. What did they do with all the water?
It's really silly. I mean, now I just keep thinking, what if that was a room based on Frozen the movie? That would have been awesome. I would have been way into that.
They just walk in there and they're really confused, and then Eric
True.
dances in and starts singing "Let It Go."
Let it
Yeah.
go.
I also wanted to know in that frozen scene where they're all putting their hands on the ice to get it to melt, why didn't they wrap it in a damn coat?
Well, I was going to say, okay, let's back up. Why
Yeah,
were
that
they
does not
not
work.
huddling together ever? Like, it was always one person in the coat by themselves. And I'm like, why isn't everyone trying to, like, huddle together and share and create more warmth?
I just
It
want-
was-
I just want you guys to know that I'm getting that damn coat because I literally was sitting in work today with a hood on and gloves on all day.
oh, my God.
That room made me physically uncomfortable, even though I was in a warm theater. So there you go.
Nice.
Any other stuff you guys want to talk about before we wrap it up here?
Should we talk about the ending and try and decipher it?
They
Yeah.
didn't bother to put much thought into it, so I don't see why we should.
But
I just
for
want to
me-
know if any of you. Oh, sorry, Casey.
No, I was just gonna say for me, the ending should have been when the two of them walked out of the building
Of
at the very end.
Of course,
Yes.
or like
or
not that it makes sense, but after they come back and they discover none of it's there, which by the way has definitely
Yeah.
happened in a Saw movie too.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so I just want to know. So they had this plane simulator where they're testing out games. Are they going to put that in a plane, or are they going to put the girl in the simulator and she's going to think she's in a plane?
So I
I-
read that as like product testing, and they are somehow
So
going
they're gonna like somehow like
replace the plane.
build this game into a functioning airliner,
Yes,
like a
That's
functioning
how-
747
that's how I took
that
it.
has been checked by the FSA or whatever.
You're going. Wait. You already lost us. It
Or are
won't.
they going to put the airplane in a skyscraper?
Oh, there you go.
Oh,
It's got to
see,
be.
here we go. I'm
skyscraper.
into that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just so dumb. So much of it is
I
so dumb.
cannot wait for the sequel.
Yeah, no.
Guys, would any of you listen? I have a real question. Would any of you let that guy that's like good at business put an EKG monitor on you and then fucking shock you with the
Ew.
like
No.
when he just kept being like, I'll go next, it's like just knock him unconscious. Why is anyone listening to anything he
Yeah.
says?
Also,
It
he's
makes me so
he's
mad.
just like, hey, you're fat. Well, let's do this.
Yeah.
Well, how did they even
Yeah.
come up with the idea that was? I mean, that was what they just started. They just like hooked it up and like somehow thought, okay, you have to lower your heart rate or raise it or whatever.
Yeah, there was no
Also-
clues really. It was just an
There
EKG
was
rolled
something
out.
said in the
There was a
video
lot of
that made me
supposition.
think.
Here's the
that-
other.
Yeah,
That's where
something
it
in the
came
video
from.
said something about living to extremes or something,
like,
and then
testing your
the
limit.
sign language
Oh.
said
Oh, yeah,
EKG,
so- and-
so they were like,
Yeah.
it has to be extremely high, and then he was like, so what that means is I have to shock you with a defibrillator.
No,
You're
no,
gonna
no.
be fine.
But first, I have to somehow become a monk that can immediately meditate and get my heart rate down to
Yes.
like 20.
Oh, I thought that he
What
was
the
sitting.
shit?
I thought that he was sitting in front of the gas, and the gas was like lowering his.
No, it looked to
Heart
me like he was
rate.
literally like,
That was
would
his
make sense.
business jujitsu.
yeah, exactly. But the other thing about that room,
What
and
makes him so good at
Who moved his
I
cheese?
don't want to just like keep doing this, but it just stuff keeps coming to me. The whole tension set up in that room is who is moving towards the right solution? Is it the girl or is it them? And like, it turns out that they both are kind of
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah, why do we have two survivors?
because they open a door and they get out, and then she also ends up being fine.
Yeah.
So you don't get any answer, I guess, is my point.
Now that we've talked about it, though, that's the one thing I did like, the fact that I think it was Grocery Kid, after Business Guy killed Tyler Labine with the EKG paddles, the defibrillators, at least like in the next room or one of the last rooms, the Grocery Kid, when the Business Guy was all talking about surviving and stuff, he's like, dude, you killed Mike.
Poor Tyler Labine. They're just like, hey, dude, listen, we need you to just open up your shirt and lay in this gurney with your gut just flopping over the side, all right? You know what the funny thing is, though, Shelton? As soon as it was over, I had literally the same exact thought of, like, I would watch a sequel to this.
Yeah. I mean,
It's so stupid,
Not
but I
on
would.
Netflix, but hey.
yeah.
I would. I mean, I kind of miss having a dumb yearly franchise, you know? Like, they don't really make Final Destinations or Saws anymore, so...
I do
Yeah.
miss Final Destination.
And these are way more pleasant than Saw, so... There you go. All right, guys, we're going to wrap this part of the show up here. Would you recommend this movie, Shelton?
I would not recommend you run to the theater to see it, but rainy day on Netflix, yeah, totally.
Cece,
Yeah, if it's on Netflix or on demand, go for it.
Sophie,
When we inevitably cover this on Tweet with BGH, then I would recommend it.
Casey.
Matinee.
Yeah, I mean, if you can turn your brain off, there's some fun to be had. That's what I'll say about it. But like anyone looking for a serious good horror movie, I'd probably steer clear. It's gonna do it for Escape Room. Let's take a quick break and do some fan mail.
4 years ago, in this quiet forest, in this cozy cabin, something happened. Something so frightening. Something so deadly. We prayed it would never happen again. Now, from the creator of Evil Dead comes Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn.
Now playing at a theater near you. Consult local listings. Greetings from Tromaville. This is Lloyd Kaufman, president of Troma Entertainment and creator of The Toxic Avenger. You know, folks, when we're not making those great movies like Romeo and Juliet and Poultrygeist, Night of the Chicken Dead, the Troma team likes to kick back and listen to Bloody Good Horror, because Bloody Good Horror is the best television there is.
Send your emails to info@bloodygoodhorror.com or hit us up on Twitter at BGHorror with the hashtag AskBGH. And don't forget to pick up back episodes of the show at podcast.bloodygoodhorror.com.
And we are back. info@bloodygoodhorror.com is the email address. No emails tonight. Casey, what do we got on Twitter?
Hey, all right. So on Twitter, we use 2 hashtags we encourage you to use. First one is BGH Classics, going through for those of you patrons that have access to the old episodes. If you find something funny in there, share it out. First up, we have one from Mi Corazon, Mi Amor. What is the beer selection for Rare Exports, the Killer Santa / Old Man Penis movie?
Oh, there is a lot.
From Eric.
There's so much old man penis in that movie.
Joe answers, it's dirty old man dick ale. Eric asks, what kind of style is a dick ale? And Joe says, it tastes like sack. And Eric, though, wants to know the importance. Is it salty? That comes from episode 185, Rare Exports.
Different days.
Also from Mi Corazon, Mi Amor, we have from episode 192, The Devil Inside. The movie is climaxing all over you right now from our own Eric BGH on how you should definitely be able to tell if the movie has finished or not.
Yeah, you should know. Isn't that the one? What's the name of that movie again?
The Devil Inside?
Isn't that the one that just smash cuts to a URL that's like, see the ending at blah, blah, blah.com or something?
So.
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, yeah.
That was a rough one.
I do feel like Escape Room climaxed all over me.
Yeah.
And
well,
just kept like much.
All I ask,
stop.
all I ask is that I know when I'm in the climax. I just want to know. It shouldn't happen, and then you're like, wait, was that it?
Doesn't that normally how it happens, though? You're like, did that just happen?
Not for guys.
I'm sorry. You're on the other end of it. You very much know when it happens.
Did it? I think it did.
Finally, in the BGH Classics division, we have from episode 455, The Killing of a Sacred Deer. Eric, the holy triumvirate of metal, heavy metal, and new metal. Because the old metal got old and you needed new metal.
It's true. It's true. I hated that movie. Hated it. With a passion.
Thankfully, I missed that one.
Don't be thankful. Most people love it. I just fucking hated it.
I don't know. It looked a little too out there for me. Also, then, our other hashtag is the Ask BGH hashtag. If you got any questions for us, feel free to hit us up. Just make sure you include that Ask BGH hashtag. First up, we have from a regular questionnaire, That Baseball Joe. Now that Mark BGH is retiring from the show, will there be a sensitive shirt or sweater hung in his honor?
just a webcam on a dad sweater?
Yes.
Yeah.
Next up, we have from _DRXP. As Mark has left the show now, can we talk about RSS feeds again?
You know, it's hilarious. So normally whenever I see an article that's like pro RSS feeds, I send it to him. But I saw one on Motherboard the other day that was like, why RSS feeds are done or something. And I was like, well, he doesn't have to see this. I'm not going to send this.
Don't ask, don't tell.
I will say I don't actually use an RSS feed anymore.
Here's one for Eric from C Technologic. With all this talk about being old in almost every episode, when it's your retirement party, just teasing. You too young to feel like that is just horrible. You might need a little gym lifestyle. With love, my man. We need you around.
I love this tweet. This tweet made my night last night. This guy's my new hype man. He's hired.
Motivational.
Yeah.
I like it. Listen.
It does bring to mind, though, who was phone.
Exactly.
Who was phone?
Next up, we have CM or C McSquiggle. Have any of the crew ever done an escape room? And if so, which character type from the movie do they most relate? The savant loudly dragging others along, the quiet genius, the leader, the guy in the corner cracking dad jokes?
Shelton.
I was the businessman electrocuting everybody.
You walked in, you're like, listen,
So I'm
get out of my way. I'm
never
good
doing
at
an
sales.
escape room with you.
I'm
Got a
good at,
business over here,
I'm
and just be still.
listen, guys, I sell things a lot. Also, I'm a murderer. Get the hell out of my way.
Is there a category for the person who just decides like I need a break and goes and stands in one of the secret rooms? That's usually what I do in escape rooms.
It sounds just like. Do you do them with friends usually, or do they put you with other people?
Oh, you do them with
Oh.
friends.
You know people you know,
Yeah, I still.
or you go with.
I still am not sure that I would like want to do.
There
that. I don't
are
know.
some. I mean, I know there are some where they're like the room holds this many people, and you either book the whole room or we will put another group in. I would never do that.
Oh yeah.
I usually just do it with friends of mine.
How long does
Yeah.
I once did a National Treasure themed escape room while hungover,
What?
where they confused the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. So we got stuck at a certain point. And they kept being like, "Look at the back of the Declaration of Independence." We're like, "We're holding it." They're like, "The other one." We're like, "This is the Constitution."
amazing?
Oh, wow.
How long do these things usually take? Because I feel like that's a huge key for me.
You did an hour, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's one room.
One room for sometimes there's like other rooms off of it,
Okay.
See, but Eric, what the
but
thing
you just have
gotta-
an hour, and if you don't get out, you're done.
Yeah, Eric, the thing you got to
They
keep
let
in
you
mind
out.
of if
You're
you
not
do
stuck.
if you pick your group, like if we did a BGH escape room and you had all these smart people like Sophie and Shelton and stuff going through there figuring out the clues, you could stand in the back corner of the room and pout and not have to do anything.
Yeah, but I could just.
But you
I-
have to pout.
I could also just be in bed. I guess is my point.
That's true.
You
Yeah.
also can leave. Like, I've been to a bunch where, like, if you wanted to leave, like, if you don't want to be in the room anymore, just wave your hand in front of the camera and we'll come get you.
Just be like, guys, I'm just gonna go out this door marked exit over here. You guys have fun.
I
I'm
think we
just going to
figured out
stand out
that
here in the lobby and
Yeah.
read Twitter until you guys are done.
I
Basically.
think the bed is Eric's escape room.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point.
How do I get out of this company?
I am king of the Irish goodbye.
That you are. Next up, we have from Chase TX. What will be the next trendy group activity / game to get made into a horror movie?
Definitely axe throwing.
Laser
Ooh,
tag.
yeah.
Mm.
Axe throwing, I think, is definitely on the money. I would go with hacky sack, though.
I would watch the shit out of a hacky sack horror movie.
Jeez.
What are the stakes?
I
Does hacky sack have something in it?
I still have a hacky sack from when
What
I
if it's like hot
was-
potato and it's a grenade?
I have a hacky sack from when I was 11 years old.
Nice.
And you still have the same one?
I never really used
Sick.
it. I just kept it.
This explains
Carried
a
it
lot.
around to all those houses.
Yeah.
I had my braces kicked off playing hacky sack.
Oh
Ah.
shit,
Ooh,
dude.
ouch.
Oh,
Was it full
Not good. Yeah, somebody went for it.
full
and knocked,
contact?
Like the first like 4 braces off my teeth.
Damn, bro.
Oh.
We would just always play it drunk, and that never worked well.
Shelton, be honest. Are your front 4 teeth fake? Do they pop out?
No, they're real-ish.
Ish.
Man.
Next up, we have from @PS Trophy Hunter. What's your go-to move to escape an awkward social situation?
Don't go.
Deflect attention somewhere else, and then just sidle away, slip away.
That is the definition of Eric's Irish goodbye.
Yeah. You know, here's why the Irish goodbye is necessary, right? Because like, if you're a person like me who always wants to go to bed first, and especially if you're hanging out with drunk people, like if you try to say goodnight to anybody, they're gonna make a big deal about it because they're drunk, and then everyone's gonna be like laser focused on you and be like, "You can't go to bed. Come on, bro." I mean, the nice thing is, the BGH family has been together long enough now that everybody knows there's no stopping me. So like,
Yeah.
literally, I always laugh. There was the one Horror Hound weekend where, like, cause you know we would fly, traveling just murders me. So like, I remember we flew in on a Friday, I think, and we were like getting set up, our table set up, and I came out and I was just being just a grumpy asshole. And Mark looked at me and he was like, "Dude, go take a nap." And I was like, "Yeah, no, you're right. I should go take a nap right now." And so I just went out to the hotel room, slept for 2 hours, ordered room service, and then I came back down and I was bright as rain.
I think there's been a time or two too where those of us that have stayed up later and people start in on the where did Eric go? We're like, don't worry about it. He's fine.
Dude, I stayed up all night. I almost made it through like the first act of Reanimator for that midnight scream, which is about as far as anyone else made it.
Yep. Next up, we have at Nick Hummer _13. Escape Room was nothing I'd see again, but it was fun to watch. It reminded me of Saw in that essence. Due to the nature of the rooms being like traps, I see this becoming the next decade's Saw series with sequel after sequel. Any thoughts on this? Love the show as usual.
They certainly, like we said, would like to. I just hope they hire someone with like a little more script writing talent next time.
Yeah, I hope that I hope it does well enough that they're like, okay, we should get a real decent script.
Well, I
here.
didn't see. I mean, Shelton. I mean, I guess I can just jump on Box Office Mojo here, but I didn't really see how well it did either.
I think it did pretty well. I mean, January is like, a dead month.
It came
nobody
in,
expects anything.
It
so.
came in third in its second week.
Dang.
So it's 33 million on a budget of 9. So
yeah, that's pretty good for this movie. 9 seems pretty low with as elaborate as some of those rooms were.
I mean, I know I say this a lot these days, but I wish like Blumhouse had made this movie because it seems like something they would have knocked out of the park.
Yeah. All right, we have 2 more left. Both of them from regular questionnaire at Robale. First one is topical. If you were having a fancy dinner party with celebrated athletes, what 3 fast food items would you serve?
Sliders.
Ooh, there you go.
I would want a tower of Crunchwrap Supremes.
Oh,
that's impressive.
Sophie knows what's up.
I'm gonna go with Baja Gorditas.
Maybe some Chick-fil-A.
Yes, give me some Chick-fil-A
there you go.
in there.
Did we get a Baja Blast fountain?
Yes.
Did you guys know guys,
Oh.
in Chicago, I discovered over the summer, there are Taco Bell cantinas that have like
alcohol,
booze. You can get booze there.
Yeah, I've heard Joe talk about those before.
It's delightful. I was in Chicago for my birthday in September, and I went to 2 of them in 2 days.
I'm gonna say for dessert, I'm gonna go with the chocolate chip cake that you get from KFC when you order the family meal.
Not a Choco Taco?
Oh,
No, Choco Tacos.
That's not really a fast food item though. I'm not counting like ice cream man stuff.
Yeah.
What about that Reese's peanut butter cup pie at Burger King?
Oh, I haven't had that, but that sounds pretty good. Mm-hmm.
No votes for like a Shamrock Shake?
I mean, that's
I
not
don't like minty stuff.
What even is it?
It's a mint shake served by McDonald's
And
in
it's
March.
green.
It's a green thing.
I'm not really a McDonald's guy because it's gross. Like food
Yeah, well.
shouldn't. I feel like I've been on this rant in the show before, but like food shouldn't always have one smell. Like anything in McDonald's has one smell, and it's a distinct smell that smells like no other food on earth, and like that should tell you that something is wrong with it. Same thing if you go into like a Dunkin' Donuts or a Subway. Like, how is it that every fast food place has its own smell? That doesn't make any fucking sense. But it doesn't smell like food anywhere else. It's messed up, man.
Yeah, that's a good point. That could be used in an escape room as well.
Guys, I smell Taco Bell.
The next movie, they have to escape a bunch of fast food restaurants.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah. All right. Finally, also from Robale, and this is a good point to this movie in our discussion that we did not bring up. Okay, so in Escape Room, did no one have to pee because pee would fill the glasses and help melt that ice?
Yes.
Oh, good
Dude.
point.
Nice.
So smart.
That's what I was expecting to happen when they ran out of water. I was like, "Oh shit, this dirtbag guy is gonna pee in the glass," and I was so ready for that. And then they didn't do it, and I was really disappointed.
Real cop out.
I know. They missed an opportunity.
Real cop out.
And see that's why you write a second draft, guys.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Always
First draft,
write
it's
a
like,
second
oh, he
draft.
has a flask or something. Second draft, no, wait, what if he pees in it?
Listen, my job is
What if he makes the other guy pee in it?
my job is way less important than Hollywood screenwriter, and we always write at least like 3 drafts.
Yeah.
Really. Come on.
Yeah, and you also don't have your friends beta read your script for you because they're going to tell you it was good.
Oh, it's wonderful. Well, my bubby liked it, so let's just shoot it.
Exactly. And that's it for tweets this week. Just remember, every week, use the hashtag AskBGH if you'd like to ask us any kind of question. about the movie, not about the movie, about anybody Brock Lesnar wants to fight and who would win. And then you can also, if you're listening through the back catalog and you're one of our wonderful patrons, feel free to use the BGH Classics hashtag for any funnies that you find there, like me stuttering through that sentence.
Yes, what Casey just said. info@bloodygoodhorror.com. If you would like to hear the wonderful Sophie or John Shelton on their respective spin-off shows, you can check out patreon.com/bloodygoodhorror. For $1 a month, you get access to all of the spin-off shows and back catalogs. Yeah, check out the book club. It's back in action, y'all. That's going to do it, I guess. We don't know what we're doing next week. I think there might be a movie coming out in theaters.
There is.
What is it? I love when we do this.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared for that one.
Sick. All right, guys.
I could find out for you.
Check out our Twitter. You can find out what movie we're doing next week. Hope you enjoyed our discussion on Escape Room. We'll talk to you next week.
See ya.
So long.
Toodles.
Bye-bye.